Well, Congressman, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, what did you think of the State of the Union address yesterday?
Well, I set the bar pretty low to begin with, and he didn't even make that. So
Yeah.
I was not impressed whatsoever, but he still has the ability to lie. I'll give you that.
Yeah, that was the I would say the underlying theme of the whole deal, which is what they've become very good at. But yeah, it's mind-blowing. Well, so a little bit about you though, your background. Do you hunt or shoot regularly?
I do. I certainly I hunt, although this job doesn't give me a whole lot of time to continue that passion, but
Right.
I do shoot as often as I can, and
Uh-huh.
I'm a pretty good pistol shot, pretty good rifle shot, not so good with a shotgun, but
Yeah.
I do. I'm a federal firearms licensee. I've had a federal firearms licensee for over 30 years now. I own 2 gun shops in Georgia,
Oh, wow.
and I'm actually the only member of Congress with an active federal firearms license and active gun shop. And it used to be Ted Budd from North Carolina, but he's now in the Senate. So now we have one in each.
Oh, right on. Very
So,
cool. So what would you say is your favorite thing to hunt then?
Deer.
Okay.
I mean, I occasionally I'll get to hunt squirrels, but uh, we've got enough of those around the house that's really just a nuisance kind of thing.
Right.
But deer is the one thing that I've hunted, and I'll have you know that when I do, I dress my own and I clean my own. I don't process it, but I
Uh-huh.
do that. I dress it and clean it.
Well, I don't process it either. I think that's one of the perks of this job is we work closely with the processor, and they get a little advertising, and I get all this delicious sausage and meatballs and everything, just shows up and then goes in the freezer.
Exactly. It's like $80 to now process a deer.
Oh yeah. That's just to get the ground, like that doesn't include any fancy sausage or,
You're right.
jerky or anything like that. Yeah, it's expensive. But hey, everything's more expensive now. Thanks, Biden.
Yeah. Yes. In this new world of executive Biden, you're right. Everything's more expensive and everything's harder.
Yeah. Well, any politician who defends the Second Amendment is a friend of mine in this show. We finally ridded ourselves of a huge threat here where I live in Texas, in Beto. We sent him packing for the 3rd time. The guy's worse than a venereal disease. He just keeps coming back. I'm sure he'll pop back up at somewhere. But our current president isn't much better when it comes to the Second Amendment. So from your point of view, has there ever been a bigger threat to the Second Amendment than Biden and his administration?
Well, what greatly concerns me about Biden and his administration is that he seems to be willing, where Obama said, I'm going to use a pen and a phone, all right? President Biden seems to be willing to use his executive agencies to go above and beyond their actual authority, and therefore to create government overreach through the ATF, through the FBI, through the Department of Justice, and actually begin to legislate, create new laws. And they're doing it by redefining definitions, whether it's a frame and a receiver, or whether it's a stock, or whether it's a pistol brace, whatever they're doing, they're creating a law which they don't have the authority to do. And that's a very scary place to be, because now you have an executive branch that enforces the law, but then also creates the law. And that's not the way our constitutional system was designed to be. We have 3 separate and equal branches of government, although in reality, the legislative branch, Congress, the representatives, is the most powerful branch because we are accountable to the people every 2 years. We are the most accountable to the people. So,
well,
it's scary when the executive starts to use to take the authority of the legislative.
Right. Well, that's on page 1 of the woke leftist playbook is, the definition doesn't suit our narrative. Well, let's just rewrite the definition. What's a woman? Well, let's rewrite that. What's a vaccine? Well, we can rewrite that too. It's not just with firearms. It's insane, really. So what would have happened if we would have lost control of the House, when we got the House back, they took the Senate. What kind of, what was that? What would the outlook have been for the Second Amendment if that would have occurred?
I think President Biden's dream, or the left's dream, including President Biden, would have truly been to continue to weaponize the agencies of the federal government against conservatives, and primarily against Second Amendment folks. I mean, you're seeing a dramatic increase in revocation conferences with federal firearms licensees, a 500% increase in revocations. That's the goal here, is to eliminate the citizens' ability to access the Second Amendment by eliminating federal firearms licensees. You have the manufacturers, and you've got the middleman, which is the federal firearms licensee, and you've got the citizen. And in order to buy a firearm, to exercise your Second Amendment rights, then you've got to go through the dealers to do it. And if you can eliminate the dealers, you can eliminate the opportunity, or just make it so hard that people give up. And that's what they're trying to do here. And then to create a national database. They're doing so with out of business records, almost 1 billion out of business records at the ATF, that they are digitizing and creating a searchable database, which is another violation of federal law. But they don't seem to care about federal law. They just make it up. They just redefine it so it doesn't apply to them. And that's a serious issue for American civil liberties. And we're seeing it. If we would have lost the House, we would have had, our country would have been in dire, dire straits. I think we would have, at this point, we would have been on the verge of losing our country, literally, our liberties in our country.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
The march to socialism would have been very quick.
Right. 100% agree with you there. And it's so sad too, because all anyone needs to do is look north to our neighbors and what's happened in Canada. And they don't have a Second Amendment, so they're already starting with 1 foot in the grave. But what Trudeau has been able to do and just cram the stuff, it's just like Biden, I guess, trying to rewrite, redefine, but he doesn't really even do that. He just says we're passing this law and we're doing it. So if you don't like it, sorry about you.
Right.
So
well, I'll tell you that I was actually born in Canada. And I spent the first 18 years of my life there. And in 1977, Canada instituted gun control in a serious way, which basically banned almost everything. If you owned a pistol, you just couldn't take it outside your house. You had to have police permission to take it to the range. So, very draconian laws. And yet Canada wasn't able to control crime that way, because criminals will always get firearms wherever they can on the black market. And as a result, the law-abiding citizen suffers more and more, and you get more draconian laws and tighter gun control until basically citizens have no means to defend themselves whatsoever. And then they become subjects and no longer citizens.
Right. Well, let's talk pistol braces. This is something I know you're very passionate about, as Biden's attempted to ban them. First of all, for anyone unfamiliar, what is a pistol brace and what function does it serve?
Well, I actually have 2 examples with me right here. This is a pistol brace for a 9mm pistol. You can see the back of it is split. This is a pistol brace right here for a 5.56 millimeter pistol. And you can see the back is hollow and it's split. So it's kind of to go over your forearm like this to brace a heavier pistol to allow you to more easily control it. And, that's a phenomenal thing. Whoever invented these, the gentleman was brilliant, because especially with the war in Iraq that we've had over the last, decade and a half, or 2 decades, actually, you have veterans, disabled veterans coming back from that, some of them missing limbs, some of them, unable to manage a pistol, a large caliber pistol, the way they want to. And these braces are very, very important to them so that they can be more accurate. They can enjoy the sport of shooting again. And so I applaud the creation of the pistol brace. And ATF approved it in 2012. Which was a great thing, and it started to gain a little bit of popularity. And then when people started to take the brace and to shoulder the brace, then ATF was like, whoa, wait a minute. No, that it's not legal to shoulder. So, it was okay to have here and to put on your arm, but once it came up here, then now it becomes a short barrel rifle. And so legal, illegal, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, in 2017, then ATF finally realized that that's just an untenable position. It doesn't make any sense in law and cannot be upheld in law. So they recognize that unless the brace itself is physically modified from its original design as a brace, then it doesn't matter what position on your body you put it on, it's legal. And that makes perfect sense. And that was correct. All right. But now here we are in 2023 with President Biden saying, I'm going to, make an end run around the legislative process. I'm going to redefine what a pistol brace is. And basically it's a stock now. And so now what you have on a pistol is a unregistered short barrel rifle, which makes it illegal under the National Firearms Act of 1934. So, legal in 2012, not legal in 2015, legal again in 2017, illegal in 2023. Even the ATF can't even make up their mind, which I think is a huge detriment to the American people. We need laws and interpretation of laws that are consistent and logical, and that's simply not what's happening. Right. So this is a big issue.
So what is the SHORT Act?
The SHORT Act, well, that is an act that basically stands for Stop Harassing, Rifle Owners Now, is what it really means, but or today. But the SHORT Act removes short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns from the National Firearms Act, because if you can take those categories of firearms away from ATF's authority, then you can simply eliminate this pistol brace issue completely, because what they're claiming is that a braced pistol makes it into an unregistered short barrel rifle. If short barrel rifles don't have to be registered anymore, then it eliminates the issue here. So that's solution number one is to pass the SHORT Act. And I think that would be good for America, because who cares what barrel length your pistol is or your rifle is, whether it's 16 inches or 14 inches or 17 inches or, 11 and a half inches. What difference does that actually make? It doesn't make any difference.
Why do they think that pistol braces pose such a threat? I mean, what percentage of violent crimes are guys using a pistol brace? Oh, I'm going to go rob this gas station. Let me get my pistol brace out. Because that's where most homicides occur in major blue cities, is where they occur. And they want to kick and scream about guys like you and I, law-abiding gun owners that have, I've got a gun safe right there full of guns. They're staying in the safe unless I'm going hunting or shooting. Right. I mean, unless there's one in my waistband, but like, we're not out the homicide rate in Chicago, where they have the strictest gun control, it's mind-boggling. And then they want to throw fits about this kind of stuff, which doesn't affect it at all.
You're exactly right. And having a brace on a pistol simply makes it larger. Okay. And putting that in your waistband is almost impossible to conceal. Yeah. So putting a brace on a pistol makes it unconcealable, actually. Yeah. That's really something you want to use at the range to make yourself more steady when you're target shooting. But my belief is that what ATF wants to do here is it wants to further expand the national registration of firearms, because we know what comes after registration, and that's confiscation. And I think it's very nefarious. I think ATF wants to intimidate the law-abiding public here. And they have given 120 days for law-abiding citizens to do one of four things. Either they can turn in their entire firearm with pistol brace to the ATF, so basically destruction. You can destroy it yourself, the entire firearm, again, destruction. You can remove the pistol brace, or excuse me, you can put a 16-inch barrel on your pistol. Who in the world has a pistol with a 16-inch barrel? I mean, that becomes even more unruly. That's just ridiculous. I mean, you might see some of the historical revolvers with really long barrels, okay, but that's very, very rare. Or you can take the brace off, so that and do away with the brace. And personally, if I had a pistol braced firearm, well, actually I've got a whole lot of firearms, but but if I was out there with a pistol braced firearm, at this point I would remove the brace and keep my pistol exactly the way it is without the brace. And under no circumstances would I register it with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, because that is exactly what they want us to do, and I would not do that. But think about it. If you simply do nothing, just nothing, Cable, in 120 days, you become a felon. Subject to a $10,000 fine, a $250,000 fine, and 10 years in jail, and you lose your ability to have a firearm for the rest of your life for simply doing nothing. And the way I look at that is that violates the Supreme Court's rule of lenity. And that was very important because back on January 6th, when the Fifth Circuit came out and they struck down the bump stock ban, they said that ban violated the rule of lenity, which said that you cannot create a law with a criminal consequence for having a product that was purchased when there was no law against it. So that's a very important principle that will apply here as well. And the ATF blatantly ignored that Fifth Circuit decision when they signed the pistol brace rule a week later on January the 13th. So, ATF has it coming here. They're going to lose this battle. It might take a little while on the legal side, but on the legislative side, we can fix it by passing the Short Act. Number two, we can do what's called a CRA, the Congressional Review Act, Joint Resolution of Disapproval, because Congress can do that on any rule that the executive branch creates. And I have that already. We have over 130 Republican co-sponsors on this rule. I'll be introducing it shortly, and it will come to the floor, and we will vote on it and pass it on the floor. Senators Kennedy and Marshall are co-leading it in the Senate on the Senate side, and we can strike it down through congressional legislation and then send it to President Biden's desk for him to sign it. If he refuses to sign it or vetoes it, then we have a third tool in our toolbox that we can use, and it's called a limitation amendment in the Appropriations Committee. And I am now on the Appropriations Committee, and I am on the Justice Subcommittee, which means I have control. I have input over the entire budget for the Department of Justice, including the budget for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And we can put a limitation amendment to ensure that no money can be spent on enforcing this rule. And that will be my intent to do. So three tools.
That's like, and that one reminds me of something that they do against hunters, and that is you can legally go to Africa and shoot a lion or an elephant or whatever. Okay, but what the left does is now we've eliminated the job of the person that processes the imports in the United States. So how do you get your trophy back? Well, you can't really, because that person doesn't. That that's how they go about that. So it's nice to see us flip the script on them. Yeah, like if we have to do that. Great. You're on the Appropriations Committee. Thank you very much.
That's right. And I'm on the Justice Subcommittee. So, turnabout is fair play. Right.
It just sucks that we have to go, stoop to that. I'm not going to say stoop. We have to do what's right for the American people.
That's
but they force our hands and back us into a corner. Well, okay, what other option do we have? It's mind blowing. And from a conservationist standpoint, all of these, everything that's firearm related that someone buys funds Pittman-Robertson Act of, I think it was 1937. And that's responsible for billions and billions of dollars in its history that goes to support not just the animals, but the wild places that they call home that we all love. Right. So I don't know. It's the same people that say we want to ban guns. Oh, we also love wildlife so much. Well, okay. What are you doing to fund wildlife and conservation? Not a damn thing.
They also want to ban traditional hunting ammunition on federal preserves.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. I mean, that's something that they have done because the administration has put in place woke people that are environmental extremists in these positions of authority to make these kind of decisions in the federal government, irregardless of what the hunters or the shooting enthusiasts, regardless of their input.
Yeah.
So that's another danger that we're seeing from this woke Biden administration.
Oh yeah. I mean, I knew when Deb Haaland wouldn't commit to a no net loss policy when she was nominated, I guess, for Secretary of the Interior, like that was a problem. And we've lost millions of hunting acres. Entire units just closed in Alaska for no reason. And like you said, these federal wildlife refuges, like non-toxic shot only. Well, that's expensive. Now you're going to price people out of hunting, and you've just lost conservation dollars. And people can't find the ammo. And the ammo manufacturers, I've discussed it with them. They can't just flip a switch and go from producing lead shot to all of a sudden now we just only do non-tox. Like that's not realistic, and they know that. And that's just an underhanded shot at hunters and shooters. So,
and it's interesting on my appropriations committee in this Congress, we also have Ryan Zinke, who is a former Interior Secretary under President Trump. So he actually sits beside me in appropriations. So
nice.
We get to converse a lot on that, and he's brought to light quite some interesting things that we'll be dealing with in appropriations that I think can help you all on the conservation side as well.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks for all that you're doing to protect our Second Amendment, our constitutional right as American citizens, not subjects, citizens.
That's correct.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. We certainly appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Cable. I appreciate the opportunity.